Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we got another power rankings video to discuss. It's week 3, so we're kicking off our power rankings video. We've seen some movement in our power rankings, and we'll do all of it coming up right now. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here at the Internet Hockey channel. Now before I begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all your support. We know it's with you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. And don't forget to comment down in the comment section below so you can all discuss in this video. So we got another power rankings video here. We got a new top 10 to debut here today in week 3. But we're going to just start off as we usually do with some honorable mentions. We saw a handful of teams have some really good weeks last week. Some teams had some bad weeks, but there were actually quite a few teams who had some really good weeks. There were a couple of teams who had to leave off my power rankings, and a couple of teams who I might have actually put in here, but I had to leave them off too. So we're going to start with the honorable mentions. We have 4 teams this week to talk about in honorable mentions. We're going to start here with the National Predators. After starting out 0-5-0, the Predators had 4 games this week and got 7 out of a possible 8 points. They were able to beat the Blackhawks. They beat the Blue Jackets in overtime. They beat someone else, I can't remember who it was at this point, and then they yesterday lost to Tampa Bay in overtime. So it was a really good week there from Nashville after starting out 0-5-0. Because of that start, I'm not putting them on my top 10 power rankings at this point in time, but they had a really good week this week and they deserve to be my honorable mentions. So that's where I have the Predators. Another honorable mention is the Avalanche. After beginning the season 0-4-0, they went on a 5-game winning streak, including 3 of those wins coming last week. I think they beat Utah, they beat Seattle if I'm correct, they also beat someone else if I'm correct, Ottawa that was. And then they lost to Chicago yesterday, so it was a bad loss there against the Blackhawks that ended their 5-game winning streak, but they're still at 500 after a 4-game losing streak to start the season. They had a fantastic week last week, some really dominant performances. McKinnon and McCarr are leading the charge. Colin's having a fantastic start to the season. Goaltending started to be picked up a little bit over the past couple of games, so the Avalanche look good, and I think that's really good there for them, but they're one of my honorable mentions for this week, once again because of their start. I'm not putting them in my top 10 at this point. The LA Kings are another honorable mention. They just miss out on my top 10 power rankings. This week I think they went 2-1-0. They beat San Jose. They beated someone else if I'm correct. I can't remember exactly who. They got slapped silly by Vegas Golden Knights, but then again, there's a lot of teams who have that happening to them right now. So they had a really good week this week. They're up to I think 5-2-2 on the season, so they're having a fantastic year. Just like I said, out of my top 10, I could have put them in there, but I decided not to. But they are one of my honorable mentions after having such a good week this past week. And same thing goes for the Tampa Bay Lightning. This week they went 3-1-0. They beat the New Jersey Devils. They beat the National Predators, like we said, in overtime yesterday. They also lost a game a little while ago. They beat the Washington Capitals in their winning streak. So the Bolts had a pretty good week this week, going 3-1-0. I think they're up to 6-3 on the season now. So they had a fantastic week. Like I said, just missing out on my top 10 power rankings, but still, they had a pretty good week. Their offense is clicking. Kucherov, Hagel, Vasilevsky's looking pretty good in net. So some pretty good stuff there for the Bolts, and they're trending in the right direction, but they're just out of my top 10 power rankings for this week. And lastly, going over to my top 10 power rankings. So we have a lot of teams here to get to. So we'll start with my number 10 team, and it's the return of the Florida Panthers. They're on my power rankings in week 1. They were an honorable mention last week, but they're back after having a fantastic week this past week, going 3-1-0. They beat the New York Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final rematch. They did lose to the Wild when the Wild were on their point streak, so that was a decent loss, but they also got a couple of other big wins. So the Panthers had a pretty good week this past week, beat Buffalo yesterday. So Panthers had a pretty good week. They're up to 7-3-1. Reinhardt's clicking. Verhaeghe's looking good. Bennett's having a fantastic season. Barkov came back yesterday, got a goal and an assist. He looked good. Defensively, they're looking pretty good. Bobrovsky's looking fantastic. So all things are going well now for the Panthers. They're opening up a big lead in the Atlantic, and at this point I think they're 10th in my power rankings, so that's why I have Florida. At number 9 we have the debut of the Vancouver Canucks after their sour start in the first week and their not so bad week last week. I didn't have them in my power rankings, but they are making their debut at number 9 on my power rankings this week. Canucks had a fantastic week. They went 2-0-1. They were able to beat the Chicago Blackhawks. They also beat Pittsburgh Penguins and had their 4-game winning streak snapped by the Carolina Hurricanes, but lost in overtime. So they've gone 5 out of a possible 6 points, and they're back up to above 500, well above 500 at 4-1-3. So this team's looking good. They're looking lethal. They have a point in 7 of their 8 games. Patterson finally got on the score sheet. Their Austin acquisitions, Heinen, Sherwood, they're looking fantastic. Miller's looking good. Besser's still putting in goals. Goaltending wise, Lankinen's actually looked like a fantastic pickup. Seelows is looking pretty good in net. Hughes looks fantastic. So the Canucks are looking pretty good. They look like a strong, sound team. And with this point sheet they're on right now, I have them bumping up to 9th in the power rankings. At At 8th in the power rankings, I have the New Jersey Devils. They take a stumble from last week. I had them down to 3rd after a not so great week last week. Well, they had another not so great week this week that I think has brought them down to number 8. Not overly fantastic. They gave up 8 goals against the Bolts and lost to them. They lost to the Islanders in overtime. They had another loss in there somewhere too. They beat the Ducks on Sunday, so it was good to see them get off the losing streak, but they're back down to 6-4-1 this season, which isn't overly great, but like Heischer's still producing really well. He's, I think, the league leader in goal scoring. Markstrom, Allen's still looking pretty good in net. They did get Pesce and Hughes back, which has sort of mixed up the defense a little bit, which might be why they've had such a slow defensive game over the past week, but still, I think they also lost to Detroit, so they're looking lethal. They're looking still dangerous. They got 3 of a possible 8 points, so it's not overly fantastic, but they do still make pretty good progress, and I think being 8th on my power rankings is pretty good. At 7th, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. They won a perfect 4-for-4 this week. They had a Western Canadian road trip, won every single game. They won an overtime game over Edmonton, handed the Flames their first regulation loss, gave the Seattle Kraken their 3rd straight loss of the week, and then they were able to beat the Vancouver Canucks in overtime yesterday. So the Carolina Hurricanes are up to 6-2-0 so far this year. They're looking fantastic. Sweep the West Canadian road trip and Seattle, and they look pretty good doing it. Aho's looking pretty good. Svechnikov, Jarvis, that 4th line with like Blake, Drury, Carey is looking pretty good defensively. Slavin, Burns, Gostisbehere, Orlov, like they're all looking really good. Anderson and Kochetkov have looked pretty good at the start of the season. So all in all, things clicking for the Carolina Hurricanes. Had a perfect week, and I'm putting them with their debut in the power rankings at number 7. At number 6, we have the Vegas Golden Knights. Knights had a fantastic week this past week too. We're also a perfect 4-for-4 after taking them off my power rankings last week. I'm putting them back on. Not as high as they'd had them in the first week, but still, they had a pretty good week this past week. They're up to 7-2-1. Mark Stone is one of the league leaders in points. Eichel's having a fantastic season. That top line of Stone, Eichel, Barbashev is looking fantastic. They also have some really good games from Pietrangelo, Theodore, Whitecloud. Like their defense is doing really good. Their offense, even their depth is actually doing pretty good right now. They destroyed San Jose. They absolutely shellacked Calgary last night. They also had a couple of other wins over the weekend. Like they absolutely shell-shocked Calgary. Like they're beating a lot of the Pacific Division opponents. So at 7-2-1, 4 straight wins at this point in time. A perfect 4-for-4 last week. I have to put them at number 6. They had a fantastic week last week, and that team is still clicking. At 5, I have the New York Rangers. I put them down 1 spot from last week. Not too surprising, but they still had a pretty good week last week. They beat the Montreal Canadiens. They beat the Anaheim Ducks. They lost the Florida Panthers, their first regulation loss of the year, in a really intriguing Eastern Conference Final rematch. But still, even though they had their first regulation loss, they're still a pretty good team. They're still a 6-1-1 record, so they're looking fantastic. Zibanejad's looking good. That Lafreniere line is looking good. Defensively, they're looking good. Fox, Lindgren's back now. Shesterkin and Quick are both looking good in net. So all in all, the Rangers are looking fantastic, and I'm keeping them in my top 5 of my power rankings. At number 4, I have the Washington Capitals. Their 5-game win streak came to an end this week at the hands of, like we said, the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they did get a couple more wins over Philly during that time frame, a home and home that they won both of. So they do still remain on my power rankings. They bent them up 1 spot from last week. They, like I said, still doing really good. Ovechkin hasn't really gotten going as of yet, but Dubois looking really good. Mangiapane, like their off-season acquisitions are looking good. Carlson, Ferravari, defensively, they're looking pretty good. Thompson and Lindgren both look fantastic. So this Caps team is looking really good. Even though they had a step back in that Bulls game, they look pretty good, and I keep them at 4th on my power rankings for this week. At 3rd, my power rankings, I have the Dallas Stars. I have them dropping off 1 spot. Not too much there, but they had a pretty good week too this past week. The Stars were able to lose to Buffalo Sabres, which was their 2nd loss of the year, but they beat the Blackhawks. They had another win in there against someone. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they had a couple of wins this week. They're up to 7-2-0 in the year, 2nd in the Central Division. They're looking fantastic. So I'm keeping them at 3rd in my power rankings. Nothing against them. I feel like there were a couple of teams who are better than them this week, so I bumped them down 1 spot. But still, Johnston, Ben, Sagan, like the offense looks good. Defense is looking sound. Andre's looking great in net. So still, Dallas looks like a really lethal team. At 2nd in my power rankings, I have the Minnesota Wild. Wild this past week did suffer their first regulation loss of the year at the hands of the Philadelphia Flyers, which was quite surprising in a 7-5 thriller. But before that, they had a couple of games. They beat both Florida teams, being Florida and Tampa, quite handedly actually over Florida, and were able to narrowly edge out Tampa. So they were able to beat both Florida teams, wind up losing to Philadelphia, which was surprising, but still they're 5-1-2. They have 12 points in just 8 games. They're looking phenomenal this year. So we'll have to see how they recover from that Philadelphia loss. But I mean, like Eriksson, Kaprizov, Boldy, all that forward group, they're looking good defensively with Faber and Spurgeon and Brodin and things like that. They're looking good. Gustafsson and Fleury have been really phenomenal this year. So all in all, the Wild have had a pretty good start to the season, and I'm going to keep them at second in my power rankings for this week. And at number one, I have a new number one. In the first week, my number one was New Jersey. Last week, it was the Dallas Stars. This week, it's the Winnipeg Jets. Now, unfortunately, their season opening win streak did come to an end yesterday against the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they were able to beat a couple of really good teams beforehand. They beat Seattle in overtime. They beat Calgary. They beat another team, St. Louis was too. So they beat Seattle, St. Louis, Calgary. Not overly fantastic teams, but they did wind up having come from behind victories, I think, on all three of those ones. So pretty good stuff there from the Jets. Like we said, they do have their first regulation loss of the year at the hands of the Leafs yesterday, but still, Hellebuyck's look phenomenal this year. That defense has looked just as lethal as it was last year. Offensively, Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, like they're all looking really good. That third line of Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton's looking really good. Like, this is a sound team. And even though they did lose their first game of the year yesterday, they're still a really great team. So I'm going to keep them at number one in my power rankings. So that's my week 3 power rankings. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. What do you think about my week 3 power rankings? On what your power rankings were from our past couple of weeks, and who you would have as your first, second, third team if you had to rank teams top 10 right now. But at this point in time, I currently have Florida at number 10, Vancouver at number 9, New Jersey at number 8, Carolina at number 7, Vegas at number 6, the Rangers at number 5, Caps at number 4, Stars at number 3, Wild at number 2, and the Winnipeg Jets at number 1. So that's my current top 10 power rankings for week 3 of the NHL season. So definitely left your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. So I'm going to talk about for today. I'm going to like this video. If you like to subscribe down below. Thank you for your support when I do it with you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't leave a comment down in the comment section below. So it's also in today's video. Also a blog, talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So check that out. I'll link to that in the description below. And can't wait to see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.